Hello, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this follow-up workshop. I share with all of you the link to the Slido, so then you can look into the questions that we will address today, and then you can also include your questions. Before that, I'll do a short recap on the workshop that we have early June on real-world energy efficiency and emissions. So in the webinar, it was designed to bring clarity and how electric freight vehicles truly perform under real operational conditions. So, getting insights from a practical application. And our goal was to raise awareness among shippers, logistics service providers, and carriers on energy consumption and CO2 emissions in alignment with the ISO 14083. And most importantly, how to calculate the emissions using real world data, but also harmonized emission factors provided by projects such as Clever and as part of the Global Logistics Emission Council framework, the GLEC framework. The session contribute to the thematic group one, or focus on efficient and low emission assets and energies. And actually, by understanding energy performance of electric trucks and improving the measurement and accountancy of emissions and in a transparent way, we actually empower the logistics sector to make informed decisions about vehicle technologies, energy sources, and reporting frameworks that drive both environmental performance and business efficiency and competitiveness. The webinar highlighted progress from flagship projects like Clever's FS Flax MCS and Macbeth. These collaborative efforts are essential to fine-tune methodologies, tools, and standards needed to make zero emissions freight scalable reality, and remove barriers to make using electric trucks a viable and competitive solution um, by developing innovative vehicles, infrastructure, and particularly business cases. In latest discussions in ALICE, and as we also discussed in the webinar, we see vehicles are more and more available. There is still limitation in the available of infrastructure, but still there are many constraints making using electric trucks not a viable and competitive solution compared to diesels. And this is what we were actually discussing, and Professor David Sebon brought very clear numbers and figures that electrified road systems are much more efficient than using battery electric trucks, and these two much more than using fuel cell hydrogen electric trucks. Then using electric trucks compared to diesel comes with important penalties. These are increasing 10-25% in the logistics cost, and actually more trucks are needed to carry normally the same amount of goods because of the limitation coming from the weight. So, additionally, something that was very interesting and was the focus is that there are charging inefficiencies around 10-15% from the charging point to the battery. This means that not all the energy that is transferred from the charging point arrives and can be usable from the battery. So then this is increasing also some cost in terms of the energy you buy and the energy you can actually use. And still, even considering all these penalties and issues, battery electric vehicles can be competitive if electricity prices are low and there are incentives to use battery electric vehicles or penalties for diesel. Here is, for example, where depot charging and warehouse charging could play an important role, because through these industry facilities, companies can really access to very cheap electricity. However, there are also limitations in terms of the connection to the grid from these facilities, because as Professor Sebon said, this will require access to several megawatts to really being able to complete this in some cases for big warehouses. Additionally, there are some upcoming regulations like emission trading system 2 that is on road transport, and it's uh, um, a charge into the fuels according to the CO2, and will come in 2027, and others like Eurovignette, but also the penalties or that truck OEMs will get if they are not able to reduce the CO2 emissions of the fleets that they sell to the market, and also the review of weight and dimensions could somehow be in incentives, and also create penalties for diesel that could make the use case or the business case of electric trucks more appealing. And this may come also together with the upgrade of the available technologies, battery technologies, and also the better understanding how these vehicles can be used in practical operations by logistics service providers. So here my plea is that to all logistics stakeholders to look into this with care and start planning for this transition. For that, predictive simulations tools are crucial decision making and planning. And still, this needs to be checked with real data, because when you buy a track, when you put that track in operations, you understand not everything works according to what you can simulate. And for that, getting the right experience is critical in terms of how to optimize route profiles, also in terms of how much of the energy in the battery it's usable, that this can be maximum 65%, so then to prevent the issues with the batteries. And also understanding the landscape of technologies and options, it's as a must now, as I said before. Then later we were deeper, and you can follow this through our communications and through the work in the projects like CFS, Macbeth, and Flex MCS that are addressing shortcomings and developing tools and knowledge to facilitate increasing the capacity building from stakeholders to accelerate the adoption. For example, CFS will start demonstrators next year of a heavy duty vehicle long distance transport in both battery electric trucks and hydrogen fuel cell hydrogen trucks. And Macbeth and Flex MCS are working around creation of multi-point megawatt public charging stations across Europe. So there are, of course, other solutions that were discussed, like battery swapping or electrified road systems. At this stage, they are not so much advanced, and there were, particularly on battery swapping questions, how this could be made work in Europe. Last week, I was in IPIC in Hong Kong, and actually one big company from China was presenting how they plan to roll out battery swapping for both cars and trucks in China. Still, I think the conditions here in our market are different, but we see in other markets like China, battery swapping could be getting much more attention and traction into the market. Last but not least, we discuss on the ISO 14003 and how the GLEC framework, through the Clever project that is looking into emission factors harmonization, is working to create better framework for carbon footprint emissions measuring and reporting. And we also share that most of the declaration of CO2 emissions in freight transport and logistics are now voluntary and driven by SIPA requests, but this may be done compulsory in future, particularly through a new regulation, Count Emissions EU, that which negotiations and discussions in the trilogue will be resuming soon with the Danish presidency of the council. So these are the takeaways of the previous webinar. And as we say in Alice, the best way to predict the future is to co-create it, and actually to co-create it, getting these insights and understanding how these technologies works in operation. It's critical for decision makers and companies to advance and to somehow get the courage to pioneer with this innovation. So now